Hello, everyone, and welcome to BYV Spill the Tea 2020 Election Edition during the Democratic National Convention. At this time, I'd like to start off by thanking our social media partner, Roland Martin. And I also like to thank our moderator, Leslie the White, for being here. And I also like to thank our terrific BYV guest speakers for being here as well. I'm excited. Looking forward to hearing the great news they have to tell us, and information. And at this time, I'd like to pass it to our national coordinator, Acacia Newsom.
Hi, everyone. I'm Acacia Newsom, BYV National Coordinator, and it's my pleasure to be co-hosting the Spill the Tea Election Edition of this time. And I can't wait to hear from our great panel. Right now, I would like to pass it on to our lovely sister in the movement, Reverend Leslie DeWhite. You can take it over from there.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is so good to be here. It's so good to be in this space with my fellow co-laborers in the movement, right? There has to be more than one person with their hand to the plow. And so I am excited to be in the room, in the virtual space with these young adults that are straight up doing it. And you are going to get to hear all about them this afternoon. And we have a lot of ground to cover. We're going to be covering some of the things that have happened in the DNC. We're going to be talking about the upcoming elections. And guess what? We're going to say your name. We're going to talk about Breonna Taylor, and we're going to hear the updates of what's happening on the Breonna Taylor case from some powerful people in the movement. So we'll introduce them later. But right now, let's just jump in and let's see who's in this space with us that's going to help us spill the tea. Can we get you all to introduce yourselves, our phenomenal BYV coordinators? And here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell the folks who you are. They're going to get a chance to hear what you're doing, but I want you to give one word that reflects your thoughts on the upcoming election. All right, so let's start with Ariel. Is Ariel on the line? Tell them who you are and one word that reflects your thoughts on the upcoming election.
Yes, of course. Hey, everyone. My name is Ariel Singleton, an organizer here in Georgia Stand Up in Georgia, along with being a Georgia coordinator for BYV. One word that I would use to just say my thoughts about what's coming up in this election is I'm very hopeful. I'm encouraged.
Very good. I like that word, encouraged. All right, Jared, one word. Tell them who you are and one word that reflects this upcoming election to you. Jared, take yourself off of mute.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Jared Sawyer Jr. with Black Youth Vote Georgia. One word that describes this election to me is invigorating.
Invigorating. Okay, I like it. Energy. I like that. All right, Marion, tell them who you are and give them your one word.
Greetings. I am Marion Harriel, State Coordinator of the Florida Black Youth Vote. And my word is not as big as Jared's, but mine is as strong as his, and it's prayerful. Gotta have God in the midst of it all.
I like it. You gotta have prayer in the midst of things. Y'all know I know something about that.
Got
All right, and Jakayla, tell them who you are and give us one word that reflects your thoughts about this upcoming election.
Hello, guys. I'm Jakayla Lipsy with Kalamazoo Black Youth Vote in Michigan. One word that would describe describe the whole election is motivated.
Motivating. You guys have such powerful words. I like it. We are in good hands with you all at the helm. So look, can we just dive right in and can we talk about voting in this season? If I could have named this topic, this segment, this portion of it, I would have named it Setting the Record Straight, right? Because there is this narrative that's out there that Black people don't vote. It's a faulty narrative, and it's not true on any front. The data supports that it's not true, and we've heard that theme come out in the DNC convention, right? But the data, let's talk about that for a second. In 2008, the Black voter turnout was only within 1% of white voter turnout, right? So whites they voted at 66.1%, and then Blacks voted at like 65.2%. that doesn't suggest that we don't show up. In 2016, the voter turnout for Black folk, it fell a little bit to 59.6%. But what people aren't saying is they're not talking about the voter suppression tactics that were at play that caused that to happen, right? So we know that in the 2016 election, we know that there were voter ID laws that came into place in Virginia and in Wisconsin. We know that in Michigan, there were poll workers that were telling folks that they had to come to the polls with their IDs, and they were turning them away, and they didn't have to. We know in North Carolina that there were poll closures, and people, Black folks in particular, they were standing in lines like, you know, twice as long as other polling places. And we know in Georgia there was a whole issue about the purging of the rolls, right? So let's talk about it. With voter suppression that happened even back then that affected the turnout, let's talk about voter suppression that's going on now. What are you all doing, and what are your organizations doing to help the Black vote and encouraging specifically Black youth to turn out at the polls, whether it's actually showing up by the polls or voting by mail? Ariel, let's hear from you.
Sure. So like you mentioned, there is a lot going on with voter suppression already. But with COVID-19 being in the mix, that has not made it any easier, especially this year when we have a major election going on. A lot of things that we've been doing here is still encouraging people to vote, not only voting by mail, but if you're not comfortable voting by mail, especially with what's going on within our United States Postal Service, you can go to the polls, but that means you have to have a plan. So that means comprising up a plan of how you're going to do it, knowing what your deadlines are, knowing your voter registration deadlines, and when you do go to the polls, and doing it safely, knowing what day you need to be there, knowing what times, making sure you know your protection hotlines, and encouraging other people to do the same. So make a day out of it. When it comes to Black youth voting, encourage your friends. We are in a pivotal time where we're young enough to do things that older generations aren't able to do as easily as we are. And so that means that we need to definitely be an example and do these things for them. So if that means to go out, encourage our friends to go out. That means voting by mail and helping our family members fill out their absentee ballots and sending them in by the mail. We need to do that same thing, and we're encouraging those to do that.
I like it. Vote with a plan. Go ready with a plan. Hey, Marion, what's happening over in your area? What are you doing to help protect the Black vote and encourage Black youth to go out to the polls or vote by mail?
So basically in Florida, pretty much we're just educating our youth on, like, pretty much they used to think that the only way that they could vote was going to the voting precinct to vote. We're educating them on the different methods. Also, we actually have some of our youth signed up to be a part of the election poll. What is it called? To making the election protection workers, to making sure that if an issue happens at this voting precinct or whatever, if you come to us, we'll call blase and find out what's going on, what's really going on. If it's going on with the voting precinct, if something's going on underground in the voting precinct, or if it's something really going on with you and any issues. But we're really, our main focus is just educating our youth, putting out any information that can, help them out, to making sure that we do what we need to do, and that's making sure that our voices are being heard.
Absolutely. Let me tell you something. Education is key. I don't know if you all have been following what's been going on in social media, but I know over the last couple of days, even within my circles, I've had to tell people, stop circulating that. That information isn't accurate. There have been so many pieces of information that have been coming out, because, we get our news through social media, right? When we talk about millennials and Gen Z, that's the first place where we're going to see it. And there was this, specifically, I remember there was this long list of absentee ballot deadline dates by state. And I started looking at that list and I was like, these dates are wrong. These dates are like 7 days past the actual deadline, right? That's a voter suppression tactic. And so I think that what you are doing in that space in terms of making sure that education is your focus is absolutely necessary in this season. So thank you for your contribution there. Jared, what are you doing? What are you doing in this season to combat voter suppression and encouraging, Black people to go to the polls or to turn out with vote by mail?
Well, we've been sending a very clear message to youth in the state of Georgia that voter suppression is real. We saw it back in 2018 in a very ferocious way with the gubernatorial election that was historic in the fact that Stacey Abrams was the first Black woman to be nominated by the Democratic Party for a gubernatorial race. And that could have been historic if voter suppression was not in the way. So we've been, getting it out there very clear to remember that voter suppression is real. And then three things: to be prepared, be determined, and be encouraged. We're telling people, hey, be prepared. Young people, check your voter registrations. Make sure that you're not one of the ones that have been purged from the systems. Make sure that you know what your polling locations are so that you can not be surprised by some of the tricks and mechanisms that are in place to suppress the vote on election day. And then we're telling people to be determined. Know that your vote does matter, and that it's extremely important that you are determined to even stay in those long lines if necessary, to go over leaps and bounds. And then lastly, when that determination runs out, be encouraged to know that not only does your vote count and matter, but that you're making a substantial difference as a part of the democratic process and being civically engaged.
Absolutely. Jared, I was sitting there listening to you. I was like, oh, you must be a preacher, because only a preacher knows about those 3 points. 3 points in the club.
That's it.
Jakayla, what are your thoughts? What's happening on the boots on the ground over in your area? What's going on? What are you doing to combat voter suppression and encouraging Black youth to go to the polls and or vote by mail?
So in Kalamazoo, we actually have a lot going on. I don't know if you guys seen this on CNN and TMZ, but we had a racial group called the Proud Boys come into our community, and they attacked some of our people. So, and we just had an election with maybe 5 African-American women on it maybe 2 weeks ago. It did not turn out great at all either. So I basically been using like these examples. So we have a commissioner in our city who was just elected. And then we have, as everybody knows, Stephanie Moore, who ran for state rep also. And we kind of use that election to kind of, tell the Black people, like, this is why you vote, because we have these things going on in our city right now that's happening. And our city, our elected officials in our city are not supporting Kalamazoo right now. So telling them that, I know I have a hard time getting my generation to actually vote in Kalamazoo because we're having things like gun violence going around right now too. So yeah, it's been pretty tough trying to persuade them to vote. I've registered plenty of people to vote this summer, so I'm really actually happy about that. We've had maybe voting parties, so we were allowed to vote at our city hall maybe 3 days before the actual election. So we went downtown, we had hot dogs, we had laundry detergent. All you had to do was come show us, your I voted sticker, and then we would have, these things to give out to them. So kind of like, I don't know, you guys see what your community likes, and whatever they like, incorporate that into, hey, this is why voting is important, and you know what, we can have fun while getting to vote. So yeah.
I think that's awesome. So let me ask you something. You talked about the elections that you had that didn't turn out so well. They didn't turn out the way that you thought or that you guys thought that they would. Do you have any lessons learned from that? Does that inform your strategy now?
We do have some lessons learned into that because, like I said, the past situation that we were just in with a white supremacist group coming into our community and basically damaging and creating trauma for everybody. Some of our leaders did not step up like we thought they would. So telling them, hey, you see what happened. Now when you go vote in November, you know who not to vote for, who not to represent for us. So Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys for that. You guys have given us some powerful tools and some powerful tactics with how we move forward. You guys have told us to be prepared. You guys have told us that, that we need to educate. You guys have talked about, lifting up the fact that voter suppression is not just something we read about in the history books, but it is real and it's happening right now. And then, Jakayla, you rounded it out with telling us how to be creative and think outside the box and how to reach, the folks that are in our community, so that not just they register to vote, but they're empowered to go to the polls to vote, even in the face of fear tactics and hate groups coming into our community. So thank you guys so much for your thoughts on that. Let's just push the conversation a little bit further. When it comes to this election, let's talk about justice for a second. Do you think, or do you believe that justice is on the ballot? And if so, tell me why. Jared, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. There are elections happening right now that are major opportunities to advance equity and justice in America. Justice is on the ballot in every way, at the local level, at the state level, at the national level. And this is the reason why we must communicate to people who are saying, oh, I don't know if I'm going to vote in November, that it's not just about the presidential election. It's about so many other elections that will make up the infrastructure of what we consider to be representation at the local and at the state level. We've got district attorneys to elect. We've got attorney generals to elect. We've got county commissioners, city councilmen and women to elect. We've got school board members to elect. And so when you take into consideration everything that's going on right now, COVID-19, schools reopening, several counties not ensuring equity in the reopening process, people not having alternative options, laptops, internet access, tutoring, food, the list goes on and on. These are school board members that are choosing what they're doing with the budgets that's coming from tax dollars. Be it that we don't put that we don't get out there and vote for school board members, then we're neglecting ourselves the opportunity to be represented the way that we really need to be. All the way to this issue of criminal justice and police brutality that's at the forefront of social media and television. And as we know, as we were just watching the DNC, everyone's talking about race and criminal justice and police brutality. District attorneys are getting elected in November. Attorney generals are getting elected in November. These are men and women who have the power to arrest police officers who are not doing their jobs. They are the ones who have the power to convict officers and supremacists and nationalists for the harms and injustices that they're doing. So yes, justice is on the ballot because it's not just about this upcoming senator race or representative race or the president of the United States, but there's so many local elected officials that we have to elect and realize that it's bigger than political party. It's literally about representation at the local level as well as at the national level.
Thank you for that. Now, Ariel, you're also in Georgia, right? So I got the same question for you, and feel free to answer that question. But I also want to know from you, in addition to your thoughts about, do you believe that justice is on the ballot? If so, what do you believe is a justice issue that's at stake for Georgia?
Just not to repeat everything that my counterpart said, like you said, it's not just about the major part. It's not just about the presidential election. It's not just about your state. It's about your city, your county, your local elections that you're voting on. And it's about educating yourself about what is on these ballots. So particularly for me, one thing that I'm very interested in, and not necessarily a person, but what is on there. So you have times where you can change the voting processes for ex-felons. Like, you can change this process. These are justices that we are looking for to make changes for. When we talk about the school board, how they are going to be elected, or who are we voting for? Are we going to allow them to have to pick a party? These things are on the ballot, and these are things that we need to pay attention to, not just the names. The justices don't just start with the beginning of the names. The justices really start when you're looking at what questions and what issues are we voting on. And a lot of times we have to do a better point in educating ourselves on those matters.
Thank you, Ariel. Hey, Marion, you're in Florida, right? What's your take on this whole situation? Is justice on the ballot? Why or why not?
It's definitely on each ballot. Yeah, like everybody has said, and if you haven't gotten it through your head now, that the presidential election is not the most important election, if you ask me. It starts with the local for me. Like, our community is where it stands. This is where it starts for our kids, our jobs, so our local, that's our main point, you know what I'm saying? So it's definitely justice on the ballot, each ballot. So for all those people that feel like, for all the fans out there that feel like the presidential election, Trump and Biden, y'all need to go see about everybody else, like those people in the community and stuff. That's we just in August, yesterday was the last day for the primary elections for us, but we just had to get rid of some sheriffs, and we had to get rid of some attorneys and stuff like that. We had to get rid of some of the people that wasn't representing us, and we had to do what we had to do because y'all came in here, y'all told us that y'all were going to do this for us. Y'all didn't do what y'all needed to do. So I'm sorry, we have to fire you, pretty much, point blank, period. I'm sorry.
Look, I hear you on that. Go ahead and set the record straight in Florida. She said you weren't doing your job. You had to go. That's what your vote does. That's what your vote does. Absolutely. Come on, take it on down. Jakayla, what are your thoughts out there in Kalamazoo? Is justice on your ballot? Why or why not?
That's kind of a hard question. In some parts it is. In most parts, no. Why? Because if you ask them, why do you want to take the seat? Some of them, most of them, it has nothing to do with Black people. It has nothing to do with African Americans. It's just, but we do have some African Americans who are on our primaries for November 4th. So, but yeah, as far as everybody else knows, currently, so we're not voting for mayor in our city currently, but we are trying, nor sheriff, but we are trying to get both our mayor and our sheriff to resign, only because, like Marion said, you're not doing your job. So now I think Kalamazoo is at the point where it's either you're going to do your job or you're going to step down and put somebody in that seat that would do the job for us. I was actually a part of a press conference that happened in our community a couple of days ago, and our mayor asked us to teach him about African Americans and what we want and how he should make the city not racist and fair, and I don't think as a mayor you should be asking African Americans how we feel or what we want. So we have a lot going on in our city right now, a lot.
So do you feel like there's anybody that's on the ballot that's carrying the Black agenda, that's carrying the message of the Black agenda?
Oh yes, most definitely. We have, I believe, 3 African Americans who carry the Black agenda. We also have a couple white people who are for us, who have actually been in our community, experienced the things that we have been through, and now they're just like, I really think that this year is the year for Kalamazoo, and I think we'll do a whole 360, prayerfully.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your contribution. I think what was important about that was, I asked you about, folks that were carrying the Black agenda, and what you said was, there are people that are represented on the ballot that are carrying our agenda, but you also spoke to allyship. and how important that is in terms of, justice being made manifest on the ballot. So thank you so much for your contribution in that area. So we're talking about, the elections, we're talking about voting, we're talking about making sure that our people are vote ready, that they are equipped, that they are informed, that they are resourced, that they know what to do. But I don't know about you guys. Have you been feeling the electricity of the convention that's going on, the Democratic convention? I don't know about you, but all over the nation, I feel like there's this little buzz, this is a little current that's going on. And so there have been, I think we're on day 3. Yesterday was day 3. I think this is day 4. This is day 4. Okay, so what has been the highlight for you? There has been so much going on and so much talked about. When I look at my own social media feed, folks are talking about the roll call, and they're talking about the people that most of us still claim as our president, right? And our first lady of the United States, the Obamas, everything to last night where Kamala Harris accepted the VP nomination for the Democratic ticket. What has been the most electrifying moment for you? And Ariel, since you sitting over there in that pink and green shirt, I'm gonna give you the privilege of going first. What are your thoughts?
I really appreciate that. Thank you. Voting 2020. Yeah. My thoughts, I have just been taken away by this Democratic National Convention. I've been tuned in every single day. It is just very, like using this word again, encouraging for me to see the lineup that I've seen for the last 3 days, and just to hear that same repetitive conversation really building in. And when we talk about us on this platform as young African-American people, I think that is very important for us to hear. Some of these highlights and these takeaways, I take it down to what I was hearing yesterday, just plain and simple. Do not let them take your democracy away. Do not let them take your choice away. Every time, there's always going to be, when you're doing something right and when you're doing something that can always progress yourself, especially if that has to do with voting, because a lot of times that's when we make our decisions, is voting. That's on paper easily. They're going to try to find every single obstacle to put in your way. Do not allow any obstacle to come in your way, especially when we're dealing with right now. Keep going, and encourage your friends to keep going. Encourage your peers, your family to keep going. There are plenty of opportunities and chances for you to register to vote online, register to vote by card. It's just so many options that we have that you just can't allow them to win, and you can't allow them to take that away from you.
Absolutely. That was a resounding message. Even if you looked at Michelle Obama's necklace, right? And she kept reiterating in her speech the importance of getting out to vote. Jared, what are your thoughts? What kind of really got you going as you watched the DNC convention?
Well, I was concerned at first because I'm like, I've watched the convention before and I felt like the energy is in the crowd and just the people that are there. So I'm like, how are they going to do this thing virtually? And am I, who love watching these type of things, going to even be enthused and excited about it? But from the beginning to now night 4, it's just been amazing. And I just echo exactly what Ariel said. And that is that message that that President Obama said yesterday. Do not let them take away your democracy. That was my highlight. He said, make sure that the basic tenets of our democracy endure, because that's what's at stake right now. To make a plan right now, and that's what really stuck out to me. Right? He said, make a plan right now for how you're going to get involved and vote, and do it as early as you can. And the reason why that really popped out to me is because even the president of the United States understands that voter suppression is real, understands that we need to, like he said, make a plan. He didn't just say vote, but he said, make a plan. Yet today is August the 20th, but we ought to be planning for exactly how we're going to vote and how we're going to get involved, and understanding that this is not going to be an easy road to walk on. You might not even be walking on the road. You might be running. Or you might not be running on the road, you might be crawling. Some of it, for some of us, it may be a quick road for us to, get over. Some of us, it might be a long road, but President Obama said, that's how they win. That's how our democracy withers until it's no democracy at all. And we cannot let that happen, that we cannot let them take away our power. And so he says, make a plan. And that's what really just, stood out to me was when he said, make a plan. As to how you're going to get out there and be involved and vote. Don't just say I'm going to vote. Make a plan. Be intentional about it.
I like it. I was thinking, how they had those like vote ready stickers? The I voted stickers. I need a sticker that echoes what Michelle Obama said. Were y'all watching when she said it is what it is? That's the sticker I need after I vote. I'm like, it is what it is. Marion, what was your highlight?
If I can keep it real with everybody, unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch the DNC, but I am excited to say that, like, who would have known that a vice president could be nominated, a Black woman could be nominated as the vice president? Like, who would have known after all these years? Nobody grandma had told them a bedtime story of eventually one day we having a vice president, well, potentially having a vice president being a Black woman. Like, nobody grandma had no story like that for us to go to sleep to. So now I can tell my grandkids later on in life that look what the Lord has done. Like, even if she don't win, y'all, even if they don't win, it's just a thought about her, like, being a possibility of her being a vice president. So I'm sorry, next year or in the next 4 years, I'll watch the DNC, but this year, unfortunately, I missed it.
I hear you. We all looking forward to being able to say, look what the Lord has done. Between you and Jerry, y'all taking us to church this afternoon. All right, Jacayla, what are your thoughts? What was the highlight for you of this DNC convention?
So I'm gonna keep it real, like Marion. I've explained a lot we've been going through, so I actually haven't had a chance to watch it. I was looking for it earlier before our little call, but I do plan on watching it today when I find it. But yeah, sorry y'all, I've been out the loop trying to hope peace in our community.
Hey, that's real. It's hard to kind of balance, watching what's going on in the media and keeping your hand to the plow, right? That is a thing. It can be a challenge, especially in this season where it's like all hands on deck all the time, 24/7. Speaking of grinders, can we switch gears a little bit? Can we introduce one of my sheroes? She doesn't even know she's my shero, but she's my shero because she is a grinder and she is out there grinding for the people right now out there in Louisville, Kentucky. Tamika Mallory, are you on the line?
I am here. How are you?
So we're so good to see you. And you were here to give us an update on Breonna Taylor and all that's going on in that movement.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me just say to all of you that this has been incredible. I've only been on a few moments, but I love the energy. I love how real you all are. Listen, I didn't have time to watch it, but I know for sure that we're in a historic moment. Those types of things, that's real, rather than trying to pick up a few talking points and then come on here and act like, you watched it. Just keep it straight up. It hasn't actually, because the convention is streaming live, it has been a little difficult for people to get quick access to it as well. So, we're trying to do some things to make sure that people can just like find the links and figure out what they want to do. I didn't know until recently, in dealing with my son, who's 21 years old, that y'all don't have like regular cable. Everything is apps. You got to sign into this and sign into Apple and Hulu and all. I'm old. We just like to turn the TV on, ABC, that's what we do. And so I'm really happy to be with you all. And of course, my sister, Melanie Campbell, my big sister, who's a mentor to me and a great supporter. And I mean that in every sense of the word, because too many times has Melanie been there to bail me out when I get myself in trouble. And, she's done the same to support us in our work here in Louisville, Kentucky. The fight for Breonna Taylor is alive and well. I know all of you know that. I'm sure that I'm joining a group of individuals who are out here pressing forward on behalf of Breonna Taylor. We all know that we are Breonna Taylor. If there's any case or any situation that we could ever look at and say that that could be me, this is the case. If anytime you didn't do anything wrong, usually they come up with something. They'll say, well, you were too, disrespectful. In Sandra Bland's case, they tried to say her attitude was no good. And in other cases, you had a wallet, a cell phone, you ran in the wrong direction, whatever, some excuse that they had, which we still don't accept, but they try something. In this situation, there is absolutely nothing. No one has been able to explain why Breonna Taylor is dead. And in fact, when you peel back the layers, you find out that the lies on the application for the no-knock warrant is at the center of how all of this happened. The police here, particularly Joshua James, filed an application for a no-knock warrant in which he lied and said that the post office had reported suspicious packages going to Breonna Taylor's home. The post office has come forward since then to say that it's not true, that they had never reported that. And so the lies on that application is what allowed, the judge signed it based upon the fact that she received it from from law enforcement. And that tells you right there, we have to also find a way to institute some practices that gives judges more responsibility to research those who are providing these reports. Because as we all know, as a student of history, Ida B. Wells said the ones who write the reports commit the murders. So these are the same people who are out here oppressing, abusing, and even murdering our people are the same ones who are writing reports with lies in it, and judges are going based upon that to reinforce these things. And so the no-knock warrant piece is at the center of the Breonna Taylor matter. And now we are here, are you okay? What happened? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So the Breonna Taylor matter, the no-knock warrant situation is literally at the center of our work here. This weekend, we have something called BreonnaCon coming up, where we're going to be focused on getting legislation passed across the state of Kentucky where no-knock warrants will be banned. The ACLU, with the leadership of a young woman by the name of Keturah here, as well as Representative Attica Scott, they have worked to get no-knock warrants banned just in Louisville. But now it needs to be done over the entire state of Kentucky. And there is work being done to ensure that let me just say, Pennsylvania and Virginia have both filed to support the ban on no-knock warrants. So this movement is spreading across the country, but it cannot happen without people like us saying her name, being on the ground, organizing, and keeping the pressure on, because Breonna Taylor was murdered on March 13th. The fact that we didn't really know about it until late in May is problematic. It's problematic. And the same thing with Ahmaud Arbery. He was killed in February, and we didn't know about that until late in May. So they are literally sweeping under the rug the murder of Black folks, and the system supports it and allows it to happen. And I'm sure that that's part of why these officers haven't been fired. At least only one officer's been fired, because I'm sure that the police department is probably thinking, and the mayor, that we've been doing stuff like this for so long. If we start firing people, it may backfire, because officers might say, wait a minute, we've been lying on warrants applications. We've been writing, in the police report, they did in the police report for the incident at Breonna Taylor's home, it said that there were no injuries. How can there be no injuries when a woman has bullets riddled in her body, dead on the ground. It's no way you could say that there was nothing, that nothing happened. So we're dealing with a movement here where, as I said, this weekend, BreonnaCon is an opportunity for us to focus on legislation and empowerment events. You can go to untilfreedom.com to learn more about what will be happening and all of that. We have families flying in, George Floyd family and many others that will be standing with Breonna Taylor's family, calling for Breonna's law to be passed across the state. And then on Tuesday, we're going to march again. And I'll say this and go, that we saw yesterday a leaked memo from the LMPD. It's calling for all officers, whether you're on vacation, family issues, to return to work right now in response to Until Freedom. We're actually named in this leaked memo because of our action. On Tuesday, we're going to be marching here. And so what we're saying is, just as they are going to have all hands on deck, we need all hands on deck as well, that we will not stop fighting, that intimidation will not work. Seniors, elderly seniors, white folks, by the way, were one person was arrested, others were cited. They went to Daniel Cameron's home this morning and sat. He's the Attorney General of Kentucky, who has the ability to file charges against these cops. They went to his home this morning and sat on the lawn, and one of the women was actually an elderly woman. I'm saying very elderly women and men. One person had Parkinson's disease, and even though they were threatened to be arrested, they sat there anyway. And one woman was arrested, and we've been saying, free Miss Mary. When I saw that, it gave me the encouragement that I need, that on Tuesday, we are going to march. We will hit the streets. We will not back down, because this movement is not Black. It's not white. As we've canvassed these communities, this situation is so serious that people from the highest tax bracket to the lowest are saying we need justice for Breonna Taylor. So thank y'all so much for having me on today. There's an emergency happening behind me that I have to go and address, but I love y'all so much. You guys are the leaders. Y'all got it. Y'all are the ones to take this thing to the next level. I sat in that seat being a young, courageous, vivacious person, and I hope I'm still still a little bit of that. But as I now have entered my 40s, I don't want to be the leader that never got out the way to allow others to come behind. And I want to do all that I can to support you all and make sure that whatever you need to be the most powerful leaders you can be, that we give it to you and not scare you into cowarding away, because we got to stand up to this system.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank you.
thanks, Tamika.
Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you. My song, are you on? Did I see you on? You're not on? Okay. Well, that was a powerful, powerful update. And I hope that everybody that is watching, first of all, that we lift up the name of Breonna Taylor. We do not let people forget, what has happened to her, and that we are still actively in the pursuit of justice, and that wherever you can put your hand to the plow to support some of the items that Tamika just listed that are going to be happening over the next couple of days, do it. Y'all know we are hashtag vote. I wrote down a hashtag myself, hashtag free Miss Mary. And we gonna lift it up as a part of the pursuit of justice in the name of Breonna Taylor. And so as we talk about justice, we were talking about justice. We were talking about justice in voting. And so I want to turn back to that, because Tamika brought up some very valid points about people who are doing just what you guys said, who are in local positions that are not acting in the best interest of our folks in our community. And so I want to dig a little bit deeper and talk about the barriers. What are some of the barriers that are preventing not just the Black community, but specifically Black youth from voting? Jared.
Yeah, myths, misinformation, misunderstandings are all barriers that are preventing or discouraging Black youth from voting. We hear oftentimes from young people, my vote doesn't count, or voting has never helped. We voted this person in office at one particular point. We had a Black president. We had a Black this, et cetera, et cetera. My vote doesn't count. Voting is not the ingredient. Well, it's not the only ingredient, but it is a critical ingredient. It is a very critical ingredient, a part of the civic process. And it is an ingredient that everybody can put in to the soup. It's an ingredient that everybody can put into the recipe. Not everyone is going to be out in the streets marching. Not everyone is able to contribute financially. Not everyone is able to get out in the workforce. Not everyone is able to, you know, engage in the multifaceted different opportunities that are available in the democratic process. But one thing that we all can do is vote. It's our right. And because of the sacrifices of our ancestors, it's our responsibility. I say also misinformation. You know, you mentioned earlier about the fact that, you know, we go on social media as our route to information. And unfortunately, there's so many troll pages out there and wrong graphics that are telling people the wrong dates for the deadlines to submit your absentee ballots, the deadlines to register to vote, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the things that we have to be able to do is to disrupt the misinformation as it relates to voting and make sure that we're getting out there the right dates, that we're getting out there the right information, the right stats, and even the right records on candidates on both sides that are being presented on the ballot for our selection. And the myths. We've got to really do what we can to prevent some of those barriers.
Absolutely. Hey, Marion, what are your thoughts? What are some of the barriers that you think are discouraging Black youth specifically from voting?
I would have to agree with Jared, but I would add on that they didn't see it happening growing up. So I guess that would go with the household. So that means that they wasn't trained to go and vote. They wasn't trained to know the importance of voting. So that's the biggest thing. They didn't see some people didn't see their people going and lining up in November, getting ready to vote and coming back with a sticker that says I voted. They didn't see none of that. They didn't get that mentoring and know the importance. And so now it's a whole bunch of catching up. Like now I'm 22. Now we learning about, why it's so important for us to vote, when we should have been knew this a long time ago by just seeing our moms. Like my mom took me out to the voting precinct with her, and I seen how she voted. Like I was there with her watching her vote. So like, you know, just seeing the exciting moment of it and then actually seeing why is it so important. So that's why I just feel like some people wasn't mentored to or trained enough to know why is it that we need to go vote.
That's good. That's good stuff. And that makes me think about where people get their information from when they don't have a source of information, when they weren't exposed to, you know, by their parents or by their communities about the importance of voting. And the other thing that then we begin to rely on is celebrity power. So can we just talk about it? Since this is Spill the Tea, right? Can we just talk about this whole thing about Kanye West running for president? Can we talk about it? Ariel, what would you say to our young adults out there and our youth that, I'm going to be politically correct, that have heard his speech and his request to run for president?
I think to echo Marianne and Jared, you know, there's a lot of misinformation and misguidance, but then the best way I can put it, being very correct, is distraction. It's just a distraction. We saw it back in 2016 when we had the election. There was distractions. The whole people not either going out to vote or they were writing in people that don't exist, like Harambe, and to me, this year, 2020, I think that is that version. It's to me, an equivalent to that. It's just a distraction. It's distracting you from what the actual issue is in the meat of it. And I think if we educate ourselves about exactly how important it is and how important we are and how big of a distraction that it can be for and how impactful it is if we do not take it seriously, I think that's where we would see a an increase or a decrease in the distraction. You know, right now, and we're all young, I'm 25 myself, but between that ages of 18 and 29, there's over 47 million people that are eligible to vote. We have of young individuals. And out of those people, about 15 million are first time they've turned 18 since the last election. So if we tell them, you know, do not let this distract you, very intentionally, it's about voting with intentions. Intentionally vote, see what's going on. I'm trying to say it the best way I can, but right now the only way I can ring it up to is it's a distraction. It's a big distraction that we're going to have to kind of put our blinders on and keep. We have a job to do, and we have a mission. We need to stay on that mission.
I hear you. And my son, I see you, my son, the general, I see that you joined our conversation, and I want to bring you in on this question, since you are, you know, a raptivist. We are talking about voting, and the question that's on the table right now is, what do we tell young voters, young folks that are, you know, looking to Kanye and other celebrities that are saying they're running for president? Like, what message would you give them?
I would first tell him that, you know, Kanye is not fit to rule his own life. You know, and it's sad. We're dealing with people who have made it, you know, who have utilized their position as, you know, and their platforms for negativity. Kanye knows he's not capable to be the president. Kanye knows, but his ego will have him mislead our kids because they enjoy his music. You know, Kanye has strategically and intentionally been misleading our youth for like the last couple of years, and it's actually sad, you know. But they just enjoy music. A lot of them listen to music, and then you look at this president, and a lot of them say, well, he can't be worse than this president. But the reality is that he can be just as bad as this president. Mm-hmm. And although you think he's a good musician, it's cool. But as you've been able to see for the last 4 years, being an entertainer does not deem you eligible or capable of running the free world. You know, so I would say enjoy be entertained by Kanye, you know, because it's entertainment and we might laugh and we might enjoy music. But it would be a grave injustice and a grave mistake to think that Kanye is capable of leading this free world. You know, we have to be very intentional. A lot of our children, or our young people, I wouldn't say children, a lot of our young people are just fed up, you know, and they're tired, and they've lost faith in this system, you know, and for good reason. So when I have conversations with our young people, I have real conversations with them, you know, and I say the reality of the situation is we have to pick the best person for us to fight. You know, the person, because we got to fight regardless, you know, and we got to look at both situations. I'm not the biggest Joe Biden fan, but I do appreciate Kamala Harris, you know, and I do appreciate people that I know are surrounding him and are going to be in his cabinet and he's going to pick. And I do believe that I'm able to move them and I'm able to have conversations and be more productive with people who are surrounding Joe Biden than I would with anybody else. You know, so we got to have real conversation with them because our young folks are not moved by the boogeyman theory of Trump anymore. Mm-hmm. So we got to really sit down and not just say, you just got to vote for somebody. No, you got to have a real conversation. All right, I get you don't like this about Joe Biden. I get you might not even like this about Kamala Harris, but we got to look at the situation in totality. Who would you rather have to fight? You know, we've seen what's going on with Trump, you know, and Kanye is in my opinion, dealing with mental health issues. So we can't even take him serious. So I think the best opportunity that we have for someone who we can move the needle, that we can see some level of progress for us, is the Joe Biden and Kamala ticket, and that's what I would say to them.
Okay, that's real. That's real. And so I just want to keep the conversation going with you in particular because you also are boots on the ground with helping to fight and keep Breonna Taylor's name lifted, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you talk to us about, what you're doing, and really even in the context, because one of the things that have come up out of this conversation is, understanding the full ballot and not just resting at the president, but understanding like the local leadership. And because you're dealing with the Breonna Taylor incident, you also understand the challenges that have come with local leadership. What do you have to say to our young people right now about what they should be paying attention to, and then specifically what you're experiencing as you try to keep her name lifted?
Well, I just had a moment because I was actually on the call a few minutes ago and I had to get off because I had a moment. As I seen these old ladies, elderly ladies, I don't want to say old, I apologize. Seeing these elderly ladies and men, I think it's about 7 of them being arrested for sitting on the Attorney General's lawn. I had tears in my eyes and I couldn't just stop crying. And for me, it's like, why do we have to fight this hard? Like we shouldn't have to go through this to get justice for one Black woman in America. Like everybody in the world knows what happened to this woman is wrong. They know that there should be some justice. And the fact that we almost 6 months out and we have people of all ethnicities, ages, religions, everything saying that justice for Breonna Taylor, and to see the willingness of white supremacy to continuously deny justice is just heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. My partner Linda Sarsour said, if we can't get justice for Breonna, then we can't get justice for nobody. And that's the seriousness of it. And right now, Louisville is ground zero for this movement. This is going to set precedence on our life. I tell people all the time, I've been saying a lot lately that I've seen some level of justice and accountability for some of our brothers at some time. May not have been all of them. It's definitely not most of them, but once or twice I've seen something that looked like a level of justice to a certain degree. I've never seen a Black woman in America receive justice. I just haven't seen it. And that really hurts me. That's not something that I should be able to say as a Black man who's lived this whole life here. It's no way that Black women can constantly be killed and murdered and no one be held accountable. So for me, taking a residency out here for the last going on 2 weeks, we've been building with the community. We've been building with the grassroots organizers, those who've been on the ground. We just lended support. We've gave them some pointers. We've given and donated our expertise in certain. We've actually learned from these brilliant strategic strategizers that are on the ground here. These young people are brilliant and they are fearless. So we figured out how do we intersect and how do we combine together to make this movement stronger. So as we sit on this ground, every day we're moving stronger. And I heard Tamika say, how these elderly gave her this energy, and they gave me a energy today, as the tears came on my, because sometimes we got to cry, as the tears rolled down, I realized that we weren't in this fight, and we were fighting and we were standing on the shoulders of elders like Melanie Campbell, like John Lewis, who is no longer here, and others who've been in this fight for us. So we don't have the right not to do nothing, man. So as we out here and sometimes it gets weary, sometimes we, like she said, they're changing laws. They're changing laws that we can't march in the street. They've told the whole police, the whole police station and everything that they can't go on vacation, that they need to be back for the day of our protest. And, sometimes you look and you like, Dad, we don't know what's going to happen. But, our elders didn't know what's going to happen either, and they still stood firm. And we know, like, as long as we're on the side of justice, that God got us. So that's what we're moving in faith. And we moving in righteousness.
Absolutely.
Sister Leslie.
Yes.
Before I've been sitting here listening, but my son, you and Tamika and Linda and all of y'all on the ground. First of all, I just want to stop and pause and say thank you. And I want to thank all these young people who are here. I don't say that, but I can't not weigh in just a little bit here. And just first of all, thank you all for what you're doing on the ground in Kentucky. And making sure that, because I know you all, with the leaders on the ground, as you all know, all leadership is right there on the ground. Just have, we said we're all leaders, whether you live in a state or you're working on a national scene. And so whatever way, Black You Vote, how coalition, how we can continue to support what you're doing. So if you could just let us know, like, what ways can we help elevate what you're doing on the ground? and let us know what we need to do. And thank you for describing what we say when Black Youth Vote said justice is on the ballot, y'all, because it really is.
So thank you, Melanie. I appreciate you. You know, I always love you. You've been one of my biggest, like a big sister to me, and you love me and you love on me, and your energy that you give is so much enough. You know, you always find a way to help us, and you've been doing it. So just continue to pray for us, continue to, you know, lift our voices, continue to spread the message and the word about what it is that we're doing, and continue to pour into these young folks like you doing, so that they can continue to carry this torch. Because
and where can we send some, and where can folks send money? Let me just break it down. Because the movement costs money.
Well, go to untilfreedom.com, or you can go on our Instagram pages, and you can definitely invest in our freedom. I don't like to say donations because that sounds like charity.
Investing in our freedom.
Investing in our freedom. So, you know, we realize that our freedom ain't free. So, like you said.
Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna step back and keep listening, y'all. Thank you, my son, and y'all.
Thank you, Melody, and thank you, my son. So look, we are rounding out, you know, our hour together, and this has been an impactful conversation. It's definitely been informative, and I don't know about you, but I feel a little rumbling in my spirit because there is still more work to do. And so I want to, before I turn this back over to our co-host, I want to give you all the opportunity to have last words. My son, you said something important about investing in our freedom, because our freedom isn't free. And so that's a monetary investment, but that's also doing the work. That's also showing up. And you said something else that talked about, you know, we can't afford not to be doing this because we stand on the shoulders of so many who have come before us, right? So I want to close on this last thought, and I want you guys to tell me what you think about why protecting the Black vote in this season is important. So my son, you know, you have a very different vantage point than the rest of us, but why is protecting the Black vote in this season important?
Well, for me, protecting the Black vote should be important in every season, but in this season is more important because we've seen how much they want it. You know, we've seen how some have pandered, some have lied, some have done everything to either depress it, you know, to do everything. And we understand how important the Black vote is. So when you realize how powerful you are, you have to protect your power. So we can't just give our vote to people because they you know, they feel like they deserve it, or they feel like it's automatically going to go to them. You know, we have to do what most other communities, ethnicities, you know, and cultures do. They hold their vote and they protect their vote, and they make sure that something is guaranteed with their vote. You know, and I think that's what we have to do in this election season. We have to sit down and have real conversations with those that we want to vote for. We have to make sure that their agendas fit what it is that we want for our people. We have to make sure that us voting for them at the end of the day is going to better our situations. Now, we can't just vote for people and nothing changes for us. You know, we those days are over.
Absolutely. Look, that was good. That was so good I wrote it down because I'm gonna tweet it, my son. You said protecting the Black vote is protecting our power. That is real. Right. Ariel, what are your thoughts?
You know, I feel like I'm at church, you know, after somebody said something profound that you feel like you wanted to say. But protecting the Black vote not only just means protecting the Black power, but it means protecting our Black persons, our Black people. It means protecting our Black creativity. It means a whole lot. It doesn't just start with the vote. It's about protecting just Black individuals. That's what it boils down to, protecting the Black vote. So if we protect the Black vote, we're protecting our Black race. We're protecting each other.
Absolutely. Marianne, what are your thoughts? What's important to you about protecting the Black vote?
It's important to me because I mean I'm Black, so important. It's protecting the Black vote is protecting my vote, protecting my sister, my family's vote, like the Black community itself. It's just, I mean, I am her, she is me, he is me, that we all family and everything. And it's also important because now we at a point where everybody that's running for office, they know who they need to turn to for them in order to get that seat. The Black community, at the end of the day, the Black people, they turn it to us to get our vote. And so it's important, again, as I say, to educate us on, because now everybody talking about the stimulus check and feeling like, oh, we getting a stimulus check, and so now let's reelect Trump or whatever. And that's not, that's not how it goes and stuff like that. So they know that they need to turn to the Black community in order to get that seat. But some people in the Black community don't understand the tricks that they're trying to play in order to get their vote, if everything is making sense. So that's why, again, I say educating our people. But it's very important to me because I am a Black individual myself.
Absolutely. Y'all are triggering my hashtag thing. I'm like, hashtag we can't be bought. How about that? Jacayla, what are your thoughts on the importance of protecting the Black vote?
We're voting for our future. I am a mother too, so I'm voting for my future. I don't want to just sit back and let everybody work. And I'm like, okay, well, it's really the part that change. I feel like this is a big year. I feel like a year to they know we're coming, they know we're coming hard. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Jacayla. And Jared, you get to round us out. What are your thoughts on being able to protect the Black vote?
My thoughts are just that we cannot afford to not vote in the November election. Black votes matter because Black lives matter, and our experiences, the past and of the present, deserve representation. On this ballot is not just a presidential election, but we're also voting for our next senators, our next governors, our next local offices, school board members, city councilmen and women, attorney generals, district attorneys. And so, on this ballot is education according to the Black experience. It's criminal justice reform according to the Black experience. It's economics according to the Black experience. And it's even character to our best standard, because, it's not particularly about you getting it right every time. It's about when you don't care to get it right at all. And so we've got to protect the Black vote by doing just as President Obama urged us to do yesterday at the DNC. Do not let them take away our democracy. And just like my son just said, it is that our voting strength that is our power that we must not give away, that we must take home to and ensure that we use it like never before in a time like this.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I think that you all are the right people for the right time in this season to move this nation forward. My name is Reverend Leslie, and it has been a privilege to be in this space with you all in this edition, this 2020 edition of Spill the Tea concerning the 2020 election. I want to thank Sister Melanie Campbell, who heads up as the CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation. I want to thank our co-host, before I turn it back over to them, the awesome Daryl Cole and Acacia Newsome. And I want to thank all of you all for tuning in. And we want to definitely not forget to shout out Roland Martin Unfiltered for providing a platform for us to get for these young people to have their voices elevated and get the importance of the message about voting out in this season. And with that, I say thank you, and I turn it over to Daryl and Acacia.
This was great. Go ahead, Acacia. I'm sorry, cut you off.
So as Black Youth Vote National, we have one action for all of the young people that are watching. If you need to check your registration status, if you need to register to vote, if you need to sign up to be a poll monitor or even a poll worker, please visit unitycampaign.org. We have tools on our site that makes it extremely easy for everyone. If you already have everything set, then pass it on to a family member, pass it on to a friend. Just make sure that everyone is voting, everyone is engaged, because this time is crucial, as all of our panelists have said. And we want to make sure that our Black vote counts. So, Daryl.
Yeah, I just want to start, by saying thank you again to all of our panelists for the energy and educating our viewers. This was terrific. The conversations were amazing. Thank you to Leslie for moderating. You're always doing a fantastic job. We appreciate you. I'm sure everybody on the panelists appreciate you for always having things go through smoothly. And I also like to thank Roland Martin, Tamika Marvey, my son, for the outstanding work they've done over the years, and we appreciate everything, and we continue to build off them, and keep progressing forward. And for the viewers, if you want to find more about Black Youth Vote, you can follow us on social medias, and you'll also be able to see our Senate, our state partners, Florida, BYV, Georgia, and etc. So thank you again, and we look forward to more events.